Hey, what's up pups, it's JR and welcome back to Fallout 4. However, we're not going to be going to Far Harbor today. Before we get in though, I'd like to really quickly thank my newest $10 patrons, No Hopamine and Rabby Fox. I hope I pronounced your names right. Instead of taking upwards of 5 minutes at the start of each Far Harbor episode to show you what's different about my character because of when I play off camera, I figured I'd just post that video I was talking about showing off my character, my gear of choice, and my personal settlement. Even though it's more of just a homestead because I don't let anyone come here for the sake of load times. So, let's kick this off with my weapons of choice. First off is my 10mm SMG. Much like most of my weapons, this is not in the base game, even though it should be because the 10mm SMG is a staple of the Fallout franchise. And before you say it, making a 10mm pistol fully automatic doesn't count. Anyway, this is from a mod graciously made by Major McCracken over on the Nexus. My specific 10mm SMG is Sleepy Time, not unlike the unique 10mm SMG from Fallout New Vegas. This is because Major McCracken is an absolute legend and added Sleepy Time's unique skin and suppressor as equipable mods. So if you loved it like I do, I highly recommend getting this mod. Sleepy Time is a legendary with the VATS enhanced legendary effect, giving it increased hit chance in VATS and a 25% less action point cost. I just wish the critical hit system worked the same way it did in previous Bethesda titles, so I had a chance of getting a 10mm SMG with Sleepy Time's exact effect, but this is still pretty helpful nonetheless. My next weapon is an ASVAL, or ASVAL, named Ventores. This is part of the mod 9x39 project by FX0X01. I'm just gonna call him FX. This also adds the Vintovka Sniperskaya Specjalnya. Nailed it. Or as most people know it, the VSS Ventores. Hence what I named my ASVAL. They are technically different weapons, but the ASVAL is just essentially a fully automatic VSS with this mod. There's nothing too special about Ventores, it not being a legendary, but that doesn't change the fact that it is absolutely awesome. If you remember the Infiltrator or the Perforator from Fallout 3's The Pit DLC, you probably remember that it was an amazing stealth weapon, because it was a silenced assault rifle with a scope, so you could lay into enemies with sneak criticals from a distance, killing them long before they have a chance to do something about it. The ASVAL, and thusly Ventores, is the same deal. Stay hidden, stay far, sneak crit. Next up, you probably remember me bringing it up, Old Glory, my M1 Garand. This amazingly faithful mod recreation of the all-American rifle was made by AsXAs. Probably not saying that right. I've already given a description of this bad boy in a previous Far Harbor episode, so I don't have much to say here. But for those of you who don't know, the nickname for the American flag is Old Glory. So obviously, I had to name my all-American marksman rifle after the Star-Spangled Banner. Moving on, we've got our first melee weapon, my fire axe, Knock Knock. Once again, named after the unique in Fallout New Vegas. You can get fire axes in your game via a lovely little mod made by Mike Moore. Knock Knock is my legendary fire axe with the penetrating effect, making it ignore 30% of the target's ballistic and energy resistance, making it quite the deadly companion to have. I wanted to capture the essence of its namesake, so I gave it a heavy silver axe head and a nice black handle, with an added electrified blade for good measure. I do wish though that it was a bit stronger, because as we move on you'll see that it doesn't really compare to my other melee weapon, one I'm sure you guys know well. But first, our next weapon is my Glock P80. This, like many weapons in my game, comes from a mod made by Doombased. Of course, this is an explosive Glock P80 that I have named Orgasmo because of my good buddy Dread over on the JR Community Discord. Other than that, there's not much to say about it. It's an explosive Glock, what else is there? So, moving on, we have my favorite melee weapon, my Wounding Shish Kebab, more aptly known as the Anti-Cauterizer. It's called the Anti-Cauterizer because it has the Wounding legendary effect, which causes enemies to bleed for 25 points of extra damage. For those of you who don't know, cauterizing is the effect of using heat to burn the flesh of a wound to stop it from bleeding. And because this is a fire sword that makes you bleed, it's the opposite, making it the Anti-Cauterizer. Of course though, the shish kebab from Fallout 4 doesn't nearly compare to the awesomeness of the shish kebab from Fallout 3, so I got a mod from Jimmy Azrael that gave it a bit more oomph. Next in line, my fully fledged sniper rifle, the good old-fashioned Mosin Nagant, which I named Vlad. It comes from a mod made, once again, by FX. This guy makes some awesome weapon mods. Nothing too special about it, other than it's a fucking Mosin Nagant. No legendary effect, nothing like that. However, there is a kinda shitty thing about my specific version of this mod. From what I've heard, it's supposed to come with a mod that allows you to load it with a 5-round strip clip to improve loading times, but I don't have that option. So I just gotta reload it the old-fashioned way. You know, pre-World War I old-fashioned way. Moving on, we've got a not modded weapon. That's strange. My penetrating missile launcher, Grim. This is a legendary missile launcher with the penetrating effect, much like Knock Knock, which ignores 30% of the target's ballistic and energy resistance. A pretty vicious effect to have on a missile launcher. I named it Grim after the M202 Flash rocket launcher, that most people know as the Grim Reaper from Call of Duty Black Ops. This is one of the 2 weapons I break out whenever I have a less than 10% chance of winning a fight. Which, speaking of, our next weapon is Marauder, my explosive minigun. I don't need to explain why I named it that. This thing is pretty much my BFG. I whip it out every time I want something to die immediately. Purely because an explosive minigun is pretty much the highest DPS weapon in the entire game of Fallout 4. Even before one of the many mods that make the base minigun not shit. Not much to say about this thing. You all know it well. Rip and tear. Next up is my VATS Enhanced AUG A1 from a mod, again, made by FX. Covert Fortune, like Sleepy Time, has the VATS Enhanced effect, giving it an increased VATS hit chance and a 25% less action point cost. You may recognize the name, but not the gun. That is because this is an upgrade from my previous, non-legendary AUG, Fortune. Due to it having an increased hit chance in VATS, I gave it a suppressor for actual functionality, and an ACOG scope and black paint job for medium long-range engagements, and a super tactical operator feel. So what do a suppressor and a black paint job equal? Sneaky. That's another word for sneaky. Covert. Covert Fortune. Moving down the line, we've got my middle ground between Fortune and Marauder, my M60 light machine gun, from a mod made by Davis 6 Numbers. Not much to say about this. It's a fucking M60. Any questions? And finally, for my weapons, we have my MTS 255 revolver shotgun, my coach gun. This comes from a mod made by XO Alt and is supremely badass. The cool thing about this mod is the creator made it so you can stick with the classic revolver style of having to cock the hammer every time you want to shoot, or flip it to semi-automatic, which I have done, as well as adding different types of shotgun shells to shoot, including slugs if you want this thing to feel more like a revolver rifle. This thing has since replaced both of my other shotguns, from power and sheer badass factor. And of course, now we move on to the woman using these guns, my character Robin, who, as you can see, has gone through another makeover. I wanted her to somewhat resemble my avatar, so I gave her white hair, yellow eyes, and a scar across her left eye. Of course, though, on my avatar, there's a bandage in the way, so you can't actually see the scar. For her hair and eyes, I used the mod's Ponytail Hairstyles by Azar, which is conveniently the name of the actual mod, and Eyes of the Universe by XXVVXX. That's the only way I'm going to read that. Anyway, I messed around with her armor set again once I found some pastor's vestments in an old abandoned bunker. I had tried them on and liked them both visually and the +1 to both my endurance and charisma. Throw some ballistic weave in there and you've got a solid under armor. Which is pretty much the only thing actual armor-wise that has changed. She still has all of her robot armor pieces, but I changed the visuals of her arms and legs to be less bulky, and I made the chest piece completely invisible, using the mod Concealed Armors by Nice Ass. Nice Ass. Oof, that's a name. Then, accessory-wise, she has pilot goggles on her head from the Armor Collection mod Ellie's Armor Compendium by Eleonora, and the Alice scarf from the Wasteland Fashion mod by Essengia. All in all, I'm very pleased with this rendition of Robin, so I think I'll be keeping her like this. Now, on to my homestead, here at the Murkwater construction site. This place is my new favorite location to set up a settlement at, purely because it's decently far from Boston and any raider encampments, so you won't have to worry about gunshots most of the time. And at night, all the little bugs come out and start making relaxing night bug nighttime noises. That, coupled with the late night fog that rolls in around here and my many oil lamps around my home, make this a very serene place to settle down after a long day of hunting death claws and rad scorpions in the glowing sea. The only downsides to this place are that its build area is pretty small, and there's a checkpoint encounter hotspot right outside it near a crashed vertibird. So, being a sentinel in the Brotherhood of Steel, I usually come home to my brothers and sisters fighting remnants of the Railroad, Gen 1 synths, and the like. But other than that, if you enjoy silence and nature, I recommend this place for a homestead. Now for the inside of my house. As we come in, we see my cooking area in the center, then to the left we have a nice place for Sean to sleep, coupled with some robot models I have found for him that never stay on the actual nightstand. Then next to that are my storage trunks, one for my uniques, one for my weapons, one for my armor, spelled the proper way, and finally one for just about anything else I find. Next to my bobblehead stand and display case that is supposed to have Shemdrown's skull in it, we have my bed and Kiri's bed. Then we move on to the workstation, sporting my colors above my clothes station and my weapon workbench. Then next to that we have my armor workbench, followed by my chemistry station, which is then followed by my display case that is supposed to have my collection of Vault-Tec lunchboxes in it, but doesn't because I need a mod for decorations. Then near that we have my weaponsmith and armorsmith workbenches, with an omen to teach Servine mutants to stay off my land. Back towards the entrance we have a display case that is supposed to have Shemdrown's sword in it, but doesn't, and a display case that is supposed to have the Gilded Grasshopper in it, but doesn't. And now we move on to companions. Of course, we have Kiri, who I mentioned earlier, who just kinda stays here looking pretty now. Not much to say about her, everyone knows Kiri. Now on to the meat of my companions, starting off with everybody's favorite murderous assaultron, Mia. Mia's name is an acronym for Melee and Incendiary Assault Automaton, which made sense when I first built her because she had a shish kebab on her right arm. However, now she has her Tesla claws and I like her name too much to change it. Let me know if you can come up with a better acronym for Mia in the comments below. I'm sure at least a few of you are curious about where her parts come from. Her head, her back armor, and her Tesla claws come from the mod Assaultron Brawler version 2. The reason I don't use any of the other Brawler parts are because they're a little much. I wanted more parts for an Assaultron, not a waifu bot. However, if her waist seems a bit thin and she seems like she has a bit of junk in her trunk, and I'm not talking about the satchel on her lower back, that's because her torso and legs are from the mod by Rafama Camp, even more Rilf Assaultron, because don't judge me. Next, we have the most fearsome creature. A thing capable of ripping you to pieces before you have a chance to scream. Ah, I'm just kidding, it's just Lulu. Lulu's a special Deathclaw. She's an albino Deathclaw that got kicked out of her pack because she was so small. Mia and I found her sitting in the back of a truck just outside the glowing sea and decided to take her with us when she didn't attack, and she quickly became the family pet. She likes her new home here at Murkwater, but one day she disappeared and Mia and I went looking for her. We found her in Backstreet Apparel wearing a French maid costume, and she growled at us when we tried to take it off. I'm not sure where it came from, but the tag just says the word Kofefi on it, whatever that means. Next, we have the man I made to hold down the fort while I'm away. The man, the myth, the legend, the absolute unit. Odin. Odin is an armored sentry robo-brain I made to protect Murkwater from Mirelurks whenever I'm off doing Soul Survivor stuff. Much like Mia, his name is an acronym, which stands for Offensive Defender Insurgent Neurobot. He does his job very well. I mean, just look at him. Who in the right mind would fuck with this big ol' unit? I should have named him Unit. What could that stand for? Unstoppable Neurointelligent Tank Bot? Damn it, that sounds awesome. Okay, next time in Fallout, I'm making Odin a brother. But right now, that'll wrap up this video. If you enjoyed this video, consider dropping a like, and make sure to hit that subscribe button to become a pup if you haven't already. Also, if you want to support the channel, consider buying some merch, or becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month. My name's JR, and I'll see you guys in the next one.